Hi, sixth graders. Today's lesson is going to be on solving equations with rational coefficients. Sounds like it might be something complicated. Maybe the term rational coefficients makes this sound like a hard concept, but let's think about what a rational coefficient is. First of all, let's take the word rational. Do you remember what a rational number is? A rational number is simply a fraction or a decimal. Rational numbers are just fractions or decimals, okay? So when we talk about a rational coefficient, it just means that there's a fraction in front of the variable, because remember what a coefficient is. A coefficient is the number in front of a variable. So if I put an x here, 3.5x equals, 25, then this would be considered an equation with a rational coefficient, if that makes sense. All right, just to review what we did yesterday and compare it to what we are doing today. Yesterday we solved one-step addition and subtraction equations. So for example, this equation involves adding to the variable x plus 9. So in order to get the variable by itself, we subtract the 9 from the side where x is on, and what we do to one side we always do to the other. So we did the inverse operation. This equation involves subtracting from the variable. So if we subtract, we do the inverse operation of subtraction and do addition to, therefore, get rid of the numbers on the side with the variable to isolate the variable and get f by itself, and what we do to one side we do to the other. Okay, and then here we go down here. This right here was this equation involved multiplication by the variable. So in order to undo the multiplication and get the variable, or z, by itself, we divided by -4 because that was the coefficient in front of z. And what we do to one side, we do to the other. Okay, and you guys get this. And then we did this, and we did the same thing over here. Well, not the same thing, but this was an equation. They took m, and remember, division equations are always going to be in this form. So instead of writing m divided by 3 equals 9, you're always going to, this fraction bar is going to represent division. So because they divided by 3, we do the inverse operation to isolate the variable, and we multiply by 3, right? And if we multiply by 3 on one side, we multiply 3 on the other. Okay, you totally get it. So that's a review of kind of one-step addition and subtraction equations. Well, I'm going to pause it and actually take a new picture and start a new slide. Hold on. Okay, boys and girls, if you don't have your notes out, go ahead and take them out right now so you can kind of look at the problem with me. But here's one thing I don't want you to do. I don't want you to write anything by number 5 yet, because we're going to go ahead and take a look at number 5. I'm going to explain this first. I'm going to write out some work, but I don't want you to write out the work that I write out, please, because I'm going to teach you a shortcut way to write out your work. Sorry. Hope that makes sense. So don't write anything, but I'm going to explain something. So we have 5, 6 times m equals 10. So you recognize this as a multiplication equation. The only thing is you don't have a whole number there. It's a rational number. So, but that shouldn't matter. You know that to undo the multiplication, you have to divide. So I want to ask you something. What are the steps when you divide fractions? So for example, if I'm going to divide, don't write anything down, but if I'm going to take 5 6 divided by 5 6, what would that be? You're right. It would be 1. How did I know that? Well, 5 6 divided by 5 6 is the same thing as like 2 divided by 2, which would be 1, right? Or you can think to yourself, 5 6 times 6 over 5 would be, you can do it the long way, 6 times 5 is 30, 6 times 5 is 30, so it's 1. Or you can cross cancel before you multiply. Either way, you get 1. So that means that you're leaving m by itself. You're leaving one m on that side, or in other words, just m, right? So But then what we do to one side, we have to do to the other. Let me get another clear picture here. So if we divide by 5/6 on this side, we found that that equals 1. We can divide by 5/6 on this side. So you're still not writing anything down on your paper yet, because I'm going to show you a shortcut. So then that leaves m by itself. And over here, how do you take 10 divided by 5/6? Well, you write 10 over 1, right? Divided by 5/6. Well, then you would take 10 over 1 times 6 over 5 because of you multiply by the reciprocal. I'm going to cross cancel here, make the 5 a 1 and make the 10 a 2, and end up with 12 over 1. Therefore, m is equal to 12. And it only makes sense that 5/6 of 12 is 10. Okay? Now, get out your pencils now because I'm going to show you an easy way to write your work. Basically, division is the same thing as what? Or what are the rules to divide two fractions? You multiply by the reciprocal. So what I'm going to do is take 5/6 and multiply by 6/5 because division is the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal. If I multiply by 6/5 over here, I multiply by 6/5 over here. So that's an easy way to write it down because then you can see the 6 cancels out the 6, 5 cancels out the 5, leaves the m by itself, right? And then guess what? I'm just going to put 10 over 1, right? 10 over 1 times, in parentheses represents times 2, 10 over 1 times 6/5. So then I can just write it out, or just solve it. So 10 times 6, I'm going to cross simplify. 5 divided by 5 is 1, 10 divided by 5 is 2, so then 2 times 6 is 12. See how much easier it is? Rather than to draw the divide bar and write divide by 5/6 over here and divide by 5/6 over here, then on a separate area show 10 over 1 times 6 over blah, blah, blah. See how you can just multiply by the reciprocal on this side, multiply by the reciprocal on this side, write out your work that way, and then, you just save a lot of space. Okay, so that's how I want you to write out your work on when you solve equations with rational coefficients. Okay, we're going to go on to the next one. Let's do number 6. First of all, remember how I told you I always kind of liked to work from the left? When I was in high school, I always switched around the equation to have my variable on the left side of the equal sign. Well, I'm going to go ahead and do that. So negative 3/4 y equals 9. Now, this is a multiplication equation, but you're multiplying by a rational coefficient. And when you multiply, and what is the inverse? How do you get y by itself when you have an equation that involves multiplying by the variable? Yeah, you do the inverse operation and you divide. So we're going to take the shortcut way, though. Instead of dividing by 3/4, we're just going to go ahead and write multiplied by negative 4/3 because division is the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal. And this leaves y by itself. It isolates the variable. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other, times negative 4/3. And then I can cross simplify. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 9 divided by 3 is 3. 3 times negative 4 is negative 12 because you have a positive 9 divided by a negative 4/3. And you see how this negative 4/3 is, or this 3/4 is negative? You got to make sure you multiply by a negative reciprocal as well because you want to get rid of those negatives because a negative times a negative is a positive 1. Okay, so, and then you have your answer, 1y equals negative 12 or y equals negative 12. And if we go back and think about it, here we have negative 3/4 of 12, or negative 3/4 times 12 would be about 9. That seems quite reasonable. Okay? All right, I want you to go down here to this independent practice. And actually, let's look at number 10. I want you to try it by yourself, and I'd like you to write out the work kind of like how I had asked you to do. So you might want to pause the video, or I can even give you a second, and I want you to do it. Figure out what x is. Solve the mystery. What does x equal to? First of all, what kind of, they multiplied by 8/5 by x, so it's a multiplication equation, therefore you have to do division. You have to do division to undo the multiplication and leave x by itself. Well, division is the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal. So I'm going to go ahead and do it here while you do it on your paper. Oh my gosh, I got x is equal to 1/6. Were you able to get that? I hope so. Okay. Great job. You may go ahead and start working on your homework over this whole concept. It should be, looking at it here, solving equations with rational coefficients. And I might even do one with you real quick just to make sure you have it. So let's pull out your homework packet and go from there. Did you get a chance to grab it? Here it is. Solving equations with rational coefficients. Here's number 1. I'm going to do it real quick for you, with you. Okay, 3/5 times x equals -6. Well, I'm going to times by 5/3 on this side because I need to divide by 3/5, and that's the same thing as multiplying by 5/3 or multiplying by the reciprocal. That gets x by itself. What I do to one side, I do to the other. So I put -6 over 1, and I times by 5/3. Okay, so I'm going to cross simplify here. You see that? 3 divided by 3 is 1. 6 divided by 3 is 2. So the -2 times 5 is -10, and then 1 times 1 is 1. Therefore, x is equal to what? What does x equal? -10. All right, and then to check it here, see if I can move this around. Yeah, okay. I got 10, so 3/5 times 10 equals -6. Okay, so now I have 3/5 times, did I get -10? Oops. Okay, yeah. 3/5 times -10 over 1 is equal to -6. Is equal to -6. Let's see if that's true. 3 times 10 is -30. 5 times 1 is 5. Well, -30 divided by 5 is -6. Therefore, it checks out. Coolio. Okay. Good luck. I know you can do this. Please work quietly. Mr. Austin Weeks has the answer key if you have any questions or want to confirm that you're doing it correctly. All right. I know it's not as effective when you can't ask me questions, but thank you so much for listening, and I miss you. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.